Origi!
Hello and welcome to the Liverpool Way podcast after a really satisfying 2-0 win over Brentford at Anfield that kept up the Reds' perfect start to the Premier League season. There was a goal in each half for Diaz and Salah, some brilliant individual performances, great interplay and plenty of signs Arne Slot's brand of football will be exactly as advertised. At times scintillating, at others controlled and somewhat less of a white knuckle ride overall. I'm Chris Smith and I'm joined by Dave Usher, the editor at liverpoolway.uk, and my fellow TLW original, John Gallagher. All three of us were at Anfield on a day when the October weather and the Lucky Star Chippy being closed couldn't even spoil the day, although Trent did his level best with his late tantrum. Dave, some of the stuff we saw today was excellent, probably a bit more than we expected at this stage. What stood out for you?
I think the thing that stood out most is how my assessment of the game was totally skewed by the atmosphere, because I was a bit bored today. At times I was saying to John, I was like, I feel like this is a little bit boring. And Brownie said something similar in the chat, and then I got to my dad's. I stopped at my dad's on the way home, and he was like, hey, they were great, weren't they, today? Really enjoyed that, really good performance. And it just made me stop and think, and I'm like, actually, yeah, it probably was. But there was just something about the whole occasion that just fell flat. The atmosphere was weird. It was proper weird. Kind of almost like a friendly game at times, where it was just silence. It wasn't like the first game of a season when everyone should be well up for it and that. It just wasn't like that at all. And it wasn't because the performance was bad, because it wasn't like the most eventful game, but when we, on those little occasions when we stepped it up, some of the football was just incredible. It just wasn't there was lulls, which I think may be part of the whole, as you said in the intro, controlling it a little bit more. So we're going to have these spells where maybe not that much is happening, and then it's bang, 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 and then, we're in. So some of the football was brilliant. The counter-attacking was back to the old Red Arrows days. Loved that. First goal, sensational. Almost scored goal of the season in the second half. Mo just, I don't know whether he miskicked it or if he was challenged or what, but that was just a stunning bit of football that led to that. So there was lots of good stuff. Alisson's only had to really make one save, well, two saves, but one was fairly routine. The one in the second half was really good. So defensively it was fine. Control the game for large periods, some brilliant football. So I should probably feel better about it than I do, and I completely put that down to the crowd. It was just a really strange day. Even at the very end, there was applause at the final whistle, and then it stopped, and it was like everyone was standing around, just wondering, what do we do here? Because everything's changed so much. Normally everyone's eyes are on Klopp, and we're waiting for Klopp to just walk around, and then it's hey, here we go. No one knew what to do, and it was the applause just stopped, and everyone was just, the ones who weren't leaving, people were just sort of stood there, waiting to see, what do we do next? And then Slot walked on the pitch and clapped the fans, so then the clapping started again. But the whole thing just felt bizarre today. It was an odd feeling from start to finish, really, in terms of the atmosphere and the way that the crowd were. But I mean, I'm sure that'll settle down now we've got this one out the way, but yeah, it wasn't what I was expecting at all, and it probably skewed my view of the performance, which was probably a lot better than I was initially, thinking it was.
Okay. John, you and Dave were sat together. Did you feel a similar way, or were you able to sort of focus more on the positives of the performance? Because this was always going to be kind of a little bit of an odd occasion. We're finding our feet again after 9 years of this tremendous love affair that's sort of come to an end when none of us wanted it to. So I feel like it can be expected that today was a little bit odd while we kind of just readjust and everybody realigns to what it's going to be like. But in the main, some of the football we played today, as I said in the intro, it does seem to be a little bit further ahead of what we could have expected after just a couple of weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were talking in the weddies before the game, Chris, about what we were expecting today, and it was like the great unknown, wasn't it? I know pre-season signs have been positive. Apparently we played well in the majority of the games and stuff. So, but last week the real stuff started, and today it was in hindsight, I'm looking back at it and I'm seeing stats from the game that make me think, wow, fucking hell. Like, you know, I seen one that jumped out at me about the pass completion. I think it was like since Opta stats like became a thing back in 2003, 2004, I think it was. We had the highest like pass completion in a game. So it was like 92%.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah. Which, you know, it just jumped out at me when I seen it after the game. You know, I think it was, might have been TNT Sports who put it out, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, so you're looking at that and you think, no, that's like an incredible stat, that, you know, and it sort of lies into what we're going to expect from Slot. And if that's how good it is early on, I know it's only Brentford, if you like, you know, but they're no mugs, are they? Let's face it, you know, they're not a bad side. So, you know, for that to be a thing so early on this reign, you know, it's a positive sign. And I wasn't bored as such, like Dave says. I mean, in terms of the context of it and what we've been used to, you know, I can see why David say that.
Bored
you know,
was too strong a word, but I did find it like a bit dull at times.
Yeah. I definitely go along with that, Dave. Yeah, you know, we were talking through the game about it and stuff. I think the second half was, you know, I said to you at half time, Dave, you know, it might be like the Ipswich game, even though we were winning today. It might be like the Ipswich game where, you know, we sort of upped the intensity in the second half. And I think we did. You know, the second half was more sort of front-footed in terms of, you know, the pressure we applied on Brentford. I think their heads went down a little bit after the second goal. You know, because at 1-0, you know, I said to you, Dave, tonight, I didn't want the game to drift where it's 1-0 with 15 minutes to go, even though we're in control. You know, they proved off a set piece that Alisson made the save from. That's all as it can take, isn't it? But we got the second goal not long after that, and we relaxed. And I thought we played some really good football. You know, as for the rest of the rest of the game. And so, all in all, very impressed. And yeah, it's positive signs. 2 wins, you know, 2 clean sheets, and you know, onwards and upwards. And as you said, Chris, some very impressive individual performances. You know, I think Diaz will get the man of the match for the. Are you allowed to say man of the match these days? Player of the match, is it? Diaz will get player of the match. You know, he was electric at times, wasn't he?
Yeah.
You know, some of his skills and, you know, how front-footed he was. And, you know, I thought Mo was really good. One bad touch in the first half, notwithstanding. And, you know, Kanate was fantastic, I thought, you know, really dominant. So, yeah, really positive signs. And as I say, I'm cautiously optimistic. I haven't seen that we can kick on and have a good season. What that good season is, I don't know just yet. It's a small sample size, isn't it? I think we're just going to have to see where we are in maybe October, saying it's more of a bigger like sample size than on how the season could go, because we've got the Champions League coming and the games will be coming thick and fast. And let's see if Slot's record about keeping players fit and the fitness levels as good as they are, as they were at final come like the Premier League and Champions League in October.
Dave, picking up on what John said about the pass completion stat, you can see why that has ticked up. Like, it was really evident today that we're not constantly looking for that one killer pass anymore. There was a lot of shorter passing as well, and there were certain times when, say, the fullbacks had the ball and the midfielders would be facing goal, and I think McAllister especially would be like, he would look at Robbo and sort of like push his hands down towards the ground, like, just cool it. You know, like, there's definitely an element that we aren't going for that knockout punch every time we get the ball anymore, and we are going to be more content to knock it around a little bit and play those short passes and look for those opportunities and have that greater control. And I felt like today that worked quite well, because we still managed to manufacture a lot of opportunities and a lot of good situations. It wasn't just like dying days of Gerard Houllier era where we'd knock it from one side to the other. Like, the interplay was such and the movement was so good that we were finding our way through. And if we can do that, then that bodes well for turning some of those games where things can get away from us into things that we have more control over, and games that we've struggled to get a result in into games that turn into a quite comfortable win, which today was in the end.
Yeah, I think a lot of us wanted more control. As much as we loved like the Klopp era and like the wild ride we went on, I think it reaches a point where you're like, okay, we maybe need to scale this back a little bit and just have a bit more control of games and not let them go so end to end, and we lose the ball and suddenly we're being counter-attacked. And I watched the Slot's interview with Gallagher, and he made a point on there which I don't think really... It was a really good point by him, and it's not something that anybody really talks about. But he's obviously at great pains to not be... And I like this about him. He's not coming in saying, well, because I could imagine if like Brendan would come in and would immediately start talking up the changes he's made, and we do this because this is better and all that. Slot's at pains to go the other way, and he's saying not that much has changed, and we've looked at it and thought like little gains. If we can do this, we'll make a small gain. And he said, but if Jurgen was here, he would have been doing the exact same thing. He would have been looking at it thinking, what do we need to change to improve? Maybe we'll do this a little bit different. He said, so, it's not like I'm just coming in with these big new ideas and changing everything. And I like that about him, because it's not massive changes that we're seeing. And Klopp evolved every year. He tried to do different things, and we changed the style. So, we don't know what this year would have looked like under Klopp anyway. He may well have been doing some of the same type of things. Maybe he would have decided, okay, we need more control because this is not good for the heart, this constant style of football that we're playing. So that's what it's going to look like. More control is going to be a little bit more dull maybe at times. So I do think most of it was down to the crowd, why I felt the way I felt during the game. I don't think it was the performance, but there were lulls. But then there were lulls last year as well, and that's just the way it is.
I don't necessarily think it was the crowd, Dave. I do think it was more the style of play. Certainly after we scored in the first half, I thought the game slowed dramatically. There were a couple of set pieces that that Brentford had that their keeper took, that they took fucking ages over. We got a couple of corners that Trent took ages to get over for as well. So I just think that the momentum sank out of the game a little bit as well. And in the build up to half time, I was looking over at the scoreboard and sort of thinking to myself, man, is it half time yet? And that just might be the way it is now. It might just, as John said, it's a small sample size, so we're not necessarily sure how this is going to play out. I felt that when the players raised the tempo as well, the crowd kind of joined them.
Yeah,
a little bit, certainly in the second half. Brown, I saw Brownie at half time, and he said it was boring. And my response to that was, it might not be that we're certainly on the Kop stood up for 90 minutes anymore. It might be a situation where we do take an opportunity to sit down a little bit, and it's not that constant on the edge of your seat to the point that you're standing up. But I get what you're saying. Yeah,
but I do think there were games last year which it wasn't always great, especially in the first half. How many times did we say the tempo wasn't good enough? It was, it was, everything was too slow, too laboured. We didn't move the ball quickly enough. So that was a common theme throughout last year anyway. So I don't know why I felt the way I did today, and I didn't necessarily feel like that last year. I don't know, but I do think I was maybe expecting more in terms of an occasion. Thought, the crowd would be up for it, and they weren't. So there's nothing wrong with the performance. The performance is good. It's a comfortable win. I kept thinking though, Slot had all summer people asking him about, bet you can't wait for your first game at Anfield, and all the fans, and he's talking about, I've had good fans at Feyenoord, that stadium was loud, and I'm looking forward to more. And then he said last week about Ipswich, how loud they were, and there's only 30,000, but it was really loud. But we've got twice as many fans next week, so I'm looking forward to that. And then he comes out today, and it's just, it was just so flat and quiet, and long spells where you could just hear people's conversations. It was weird. It just wasn't what I was expecting. But in terms of the actual style of play and that. Yeah, that pass percentage that's a bit of an eye opener when you're playing in a league that contains Manchester City. So, I mean, was that our record or the record, John? Did I mishear that?
Yeah, I think it was our record.
So not it's not a league record then.
I'd have to check the the stat again, Dave.
Because if
But
it's
yeah, I'm
more than
almost
City, then
certain.
friggin' hell, I mean, that's...
Yeah, it definitely said 92%. I know that much. So I mean, if it's not the record, it won't be far off the record. I wouldn't have
I tell
thought.
you why that's quite surprising to me, because I didn't feel like it was a game where we just passed it around at the back safely, for the, just to build up like stat. It never felt like that. I didn't feel like the passing was just backwards and safe. It felt like a normal game in terms of how we approached it. So if
Yeah.
we're playing the style of football that the manager wants, and we're still getting like that high completion of passes, that does bode well.
Yeah.
But
So
he's
is
spoken
Liverpool's,
about
just to
that, hasn't he?
confirm?
It was just the Liverpool record.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It is,
That
yeah.
makes sense
Just
then.
said it there. Liverpool records as a 92% pass completion in Arne Slot's first game in charge. Their highest record since records began over 20 years ago, yeah.
Okay, that's fine. We'll break the league record next week at Old Trafford, so that's all. That'll do. No, so I've totally forgot where I was going with that then. There's one thing that Slot was talking about, and he said what he needed to change. And it was like, he said, that basically, because they're quite a young team, they're always looking for the forward pass, and sometimes it's like, no, take a breath. That's too risky. There's no point. It's not a high percentage pass. Keep the ball. But if it's on, he wants them to play it. He doesn't want them playing safe. And I just seen one instance of that today. Was we'd been passing it around in the first half, and we'd moved it around well, and Brentford was shuffling across and then shuffling across the other side, and we were moving them, and Gravenberch had the ball in the centre, and he tried to play a ball out wide. I think it was to Robbo, and it got intercepted, and like we lost the ball, and you could see Slot was like saying to him, no, don't force that pass. You didn't need to force that. There was easier passes on. You didn't need to try to play that one because it was risky. But more often than not, we weren't doing that. And a few times it was frustrating me, like Dom especially. Dom's carrying the ball forward, and you're like, yeah, we're in here, just play the pass. And he held on to it, and he didn't, and then it sort of slowed down, and it was frustrating because it's not what I'm used to doing. But it's obviously what they're being told to do. It's like, if you don't back yourself to make that pass, if you think, not sure, don't play it, keep the ball. So you can see like there's early signs of that where we're a little bit more circumspect in certain situations. But I think the forwards are kind of still got license to just do whatever they're going to do, and it's more so like midfielders don't lose the ball by trying to force things, because we're going to get counter-attacked on then. So I think that's what it's all about, really, isn't it?
They didn't lose the ball at all. The midfielders today. It was remarkable how well they kept hold of it.
Yeah.
In terms of like the forwards being allowed to do what they want to do, still, John, I noticed, and this might be a Salah thing rather than we talked about this last season, how he might have to adapt his game, and I thought there were some signs today that he really has started to adapt his game in terms of, we didn't see him at all running down any blind alleys with his head down and being easily tackled by that gigantic left back. I've never seen him before. He's huge.
Diet Dan Burn.
He's fucking massive, isn't he? Like the biggest left back I've ever seen. But like Salah would receive the ball today when he wasn't being fouled by Dan Burn, by the way. He would get his head up and he would look to lay it off, and then he'd be on the move again. And I think that's something, if we're going to see more of that from him, he'll still get his fair share of chances if our one-touch interplay is as good as it was at times today, and he can be more effective for us as just a brilliant footballer instead of having to charge past three players and beat his man and bend one in or get the cross in or whatever. I just thought there was, from seeing it firsthand today, there's a slight modification in his approach. Is that something that you noticed as well, or am I sort of over-egging that a little bit?
No, you're absolutely right. It's just about being more efficient as his body changes as he gets a bit older, isn't it? As well as obviously what Slot expects from him as well. He knows his body. He'll know what he can and can't do as well as he used to do maybe 2, 3, 4 years ago. And he's that like good a player that he can do that, and he can still have massive contributions. I mean, he scored 2 great goals in 2 games, so it's like, he's he's always going to be clinical. It was a really good finish today. And he started, Virgil pinged that pass across to him, didn't he? In the second half, that nearly led to the goal of the season, would have been the goal. That was like nearly an Arsenal goal under Wenger, that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's the best way I can describe when Arsenal's always do those little layoffs and 1-2s around the box, and they nearly scored a perfect goal. That's what that was, and Mo was at the heart of it. Just driving in and laying it off, and little 1-2s around the box and stuff. So yeah, he's still going to be quality in terms of what he brings to us, and hopefully the days of him. I know he had that spell last season where he's a bit erratic, wasn't he? But hopefully he's had all summer to refine things and just sharpen up. And he looked really sharp, I thought, today. And he wasn't getting dragged back by that Diet Dan Burn. I thought he was really effective, and probably just behind Diaz for me is probably our best player, I thought.
Okay. And Dave, what did you make of Gravenberch playing in the six today? He had rave reviews last week for his second half performance especially, but I thought he was pretty good today as well. I thought he got his toe on a lot of stuff that he perhaps wasn't favourite to, and recycled possession really well, didn't lose the ball, won his duels, and I thought it was another good outing for him. And if this is the role that Slot wants his number 6 to play, I know that sterner tests away, and traditionally speaking, Gravenberch against the better opposition hasn't been as prominent in terms of his performance, but I thought there were more positives to take from his performance again today.
Yeah, he wasn't as eye-catching as last week, but I thought he was effective. As you say, kept the ball really well. Second half, he came into it more in terms of being able to get turned and carrying the ball, breaking the lines, and I thought he did some nice things today. He got booked, didn't he? I think the booking was...
Yeah,
the booking was pretty harsh
it,
from what I remember, but I don't know. I can't remember.
It was a bit of a rash challenge, I think.
Oh, he slipped. He was running in and he slipped and he just wiped the lad out. So yeah, it was a yellow card, but it wasn't an intentional foul. He was charging in, tried to stop, and then he just slipped and went flying in. But so he's played the rest of the game on a yellow, which for someone who's not natural in that position, that could have been a problem. But he dealt with that well. Thought, as you say, he got his foot in. Those long legs obviously help, and he's quick across the ground as well. So I think he's going to be fine in that position, but he has still got to develop the defensive side of it, and that's not a criticism. That's just reality. He's like 21, 22, and he's learning not a completely new role, because he's played there before to some extent at Ajax, I think, but. It's going to be difficult for him against the better teams, but he's in the team on merit, and I think he's got off to a really good start, and he might be one of those players, because we said last season, when we knew Klopp was going, and whoever comes in, there may well be some players who are not really part of it at the moment, who needs a change of manager, and that could they could really kick on. He might be one of those players, because he's got the shirt at the moment, so it's up to him to stay in the team now. But he wouldn't be playing there if Klopp was still here. He wouldn't be playing as the 6. So he's somebody who is going to benefit from the slight change in the tactical approach. And who knows, if we decide Zubimendi, Gravenberch probably wouldn't be in the team right now, but he is in the team. We haven't signed anybody. We're running out of time to do something. So if the window shuts and we haven't signed a number 6, well, it's him. He is the number 6 now, and it's his share to lose, isn't it?
Are you okay with that, John?
Well, right now we've got no choice, have we? Well,
sure.
I suppose we have to with Enzo, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, as Dave said, he's in the team on merit. I still have concerns about him in terms of if we're having a bad spell. I think he's one of those players, or he looks like he's one of those players to me. I mentioned it last week, where if the team's struggling a bit, I think he might. You'll notice him struggling more. That's just my perception of him. Whether I'm right or not, I don't know. But when the team's functioning, firing and that and playing well, then he's like a good cog in the machine, so to speak. But there is like sterner tests ahead as the season progresses. But you can only since the second half at Ipswich. Like I was calling for him to be subbed at half time last week. But you know, as Dave said earlier, you know, second half he come into his own and that, and today he was like quietly effective. I thought, and McAllister for that matter. Yeah. You know, I thought McAllister was like, you know, quietly effective as well. So there's like a good base there for like a decent partnership. Hopefully, as the season goes on.
Yeah, those two were definitely the ones who were sort of more disciplined and asked to be more disciplined in their positional sense today. I thought Szoboszlai had a little bit more of a license to roam a little bit in that sort of corridor. Like, you know how the pitch is mown, like there's the lines, like it's the three inside lines and then from the centre circle almost to the penalty spot. He kind of had license to pop up anywhere, as did Trent really as well. It all looked quite fluid, and it was surprising to me how well it worked at times, especially with Trent sort of popping up in the number 10 position every now and again, and Dom having more of a license to play as like a real sort of like 8 with license.
He made some good runs down the right hand side, and that little trio of, you know, Trent, Dom and Mo on the right hand side, that's how we played last year. Those three were most of the season. That was our right hand side. So it's not like they're not used to playing together, but the roles have changed slightly, and they all seem to be thriving in it because, you know, John and you, Chris, you spoke about Mo there. I think you're both right. There's a good point you made about how his head's up now when he's running at people. So he's not necessarily going past people himself. He's his head's up and he's looking for little 1-2s and that and getting in around the back of people. So I think that's also a result of how Slot wants to play in terms of a lot of it's very central and we have a lot of bodies in central areas. So when Mo is cutting inside, he's cutting in and he's got options to lay the ball off to. We almost saw like the goal of the season when he played about 3 or 4 different 1-2s with different people right across the box, didn't he? But that's because we do have like a lot of players centrally. But yeah, I think Dom, I thought he was a bit hit and miss today. I thought he played well, but a few times he left me a little bit like wanting more, thinking, oh, you know, you could have done that slightly differently or whatever. But his energy's great. The right hand side of the team worked really effectively today. I thought Trent had a really good game as well. Everyone played well today. There's like nobody didn't play well. I thought Robbo had a really good game as well. And there's question marks over Robbo. Not from me. I haven't got any question marks about Robbo, but I keep seeing people saying, oh, is he going to be suited to playing this like slightly more inside role than what he's used to? Because we used to seeing Robbo like flying up and down. But he's still kind of doing that. He's just doing it like 15 yards more in field. So there was one in the first half. It was the second half, wasn't it, when he went charging through the middle. And Diaz was out wide, so Robbo doesn't need to go wide. Because I watched like a video on like Slot's tactics, and that was on YouTube last week. It wasn't the 4-4-2-1 that I was talking about. It was something else. I can't remember who it was. And he was saying about like Slot only ever has like one player out wide on each side, and it's usually like the wide attacker. So it's in the build up, so like the fullbacks are like, you know, 10-15 yards more inside than we're used to seeing them. But Robbo can do that, you know, like basically it's underlapping rather than overlapping, but Robbo can do that, you know, when he gets his head down and he's like charging forward. He's done that a few times today, so I think people are maybe, I don't know if they're writing him off, but people are questioning whether he's suited to playing this style of football. And I think he's fine. I just think, you know, at his age, you are going to have to manage his minutes a bit more. And that either means giving Costas more opportunities or it means you sign somebody. You know, we've been linked with left-sided defenders, but more so like that centre-back who can play left-back. I'm not sure that works. And I don't think, like, you know, somebody like, say, for example, say Van der Ven at Spurs. He's like really good player by the looks of it. We were linked to him this time last year, but he's seen as that like left-sided centre-back who can also play like as a left-back. Ake at City as well. But watching how we play, I'm not sure that's ideal for this, because Robbo's still getting forward. Do you know what I mean? It's not like he's just sitting. The way Man City play, with like Ake just sort of sits in like part of a back three, and then he'll help out further forward, but he's not making, charging runs. But Robbo's been doing that, so, and that's how we play it on the right. Especially if Conor Bradley's playing there, Trent's slightly different because he's getting on the ball more. But I don't know. I think, like, from what I've seen so far of the system, I think Robbo's fine.
Yeah, I mean, the hurt of Robbo's thrown, if you like, for that type of player. I mean, I know it's going off on a bit of a tangent about transfers, but the closest one I could see would be perfect for that role is the lad at Wolves, Aït-Nouri. He just seems to pop up in mad positions every time I see him. Like, how the fucking hell's he ended up there, like in the 6-yard box and all that?
I feel like he's a number 10. I don't feel like he's playing left back.
Yeah, I know.
He does pop up in mad positions, but
he's the type of player you could see us being, for that profile kind of thing. Like, from what I've seen of him, he's definitely that kind of player I could see us looking at in maybe the next 12, 18 months or whatever.
We've been strongly linked with him for a good while now. Like,
but that's it. I haven't seen what you've seen Robbo do today, as you've just mentioned. That's the type of player I could definitely see for what he does.
I just don't know if he's good enough defensively, though.
Possibly,
that's the issue there. Plus, he obviously hasn't got a release clause, or we'd have been in by now. We only sign players with clauses.
So, should we talk about the goal then? The first one was almost as if nothing had ever changed. It was peak Jurgen Klopp Liverpool, the clearance from the corner, and all of a sudden we're on our way. I think it's Jota, isn't it, who's powering forward, who plays it through to Diaz. And John, the finish from Diaz kind of took me by surprise a little bit, because when he was going clean through, my expectations weren't incredibly high that ball was going to end up in the back of the net. And I jumped up when it went in, as you obviously do, but more in surprise than anything else to see it it was such an emphatic finish, and I hope we can see more of that from him.
Yeah, I mean, Dave made a point when it went in. It was a nice finish in that, but could the keeper have done better with it because it was on that side? I mean, if Diaz had gone the far corner and placed it, maybe, I don't know, but if you're covering that side of the goal, then could the angle have been better from the keeper? I've not seen it back, so I don't know. But
no,
I mean,
same. I felt like there was a little bit of hitting hopes a bit too strong, but mainly blast it, get it on target, and see what happens, rather than be like a composed finish. But it went in. It's
a shame he didn't do that against City. It wasn't too dissimilar a position last season, was it? Do you remember?
Yeah, he took that on his right foot, didn't he? And just skewed it wide, whereas this time he just put his foot through it on his left.
Yeah, but it starts with Mo. I thought it was a great finish.
Yeah, I'd need to see it back, because I don't know. Just at the time, I did think there was it was a bit of a Darwin-esque, just put your foot through it and see what happens, if you like.
Oof.
No,
is it wavering a bit, Dave?
No, I've never disputed that. I've always said that's what he's got to knock off and be more composed. But no, it starts with Mo winning the ball on the edge of the box, but Mo wins the tackle, but then he ends up on the floor. And Mo will have been fucking devastated that he couldn't have joined that the charge forward. He gets up and it's like, the runner who's fell over and everyone's ran past him, and he's like, oh, I'm out the race now. So Jota and Diaz go herring off, and Mo's just giving them a 30-yard start. But it doesn't happen without him winning the ball on the edge of the box like that. If he doesn't come out of that challenge with the ball, it probably ends up breaking to a Brentford player on the edge of the box who's, maybe they play a pass, maybe they get a shot, whatever. But because Mo won that challenge, the ball broke kindly for us, and it's really good play by Jota. The run by Diaz is great though. He makes his mind up just by the run that he makes. It's it makes it easy for Jota to go, okay, that's where I've got to play it. So sometimes, we've seen in those situations when we've had counter attacks, and they all just end up making bad runs, and then the ball gets played behind someone, and then it slows it down, and the back end of last season was terrible for that. You think of the games at Old Trafford in particular, but that was proper red arrows, clinical, let them have corners, and because we're going to score. It did get to a point where I always felt we're more likely to score from their corners than they are. Like whoever we were playing, because we were so good at it, and we weren't conceding many goals from corners, but we were scoring loads of those counter-attack goals. So yeah, it was great seeing that. Like, I love those type of goals. Probably my favourite goals. Love it.
Good stuff. We're kind of off to the races then, John. But as I said before, we did see a little bit of a lull getting towards half time. Brentford were able to get on the ball a little bit. They weren't incredibly threatening. And they had just had a little couple of moments from set pieces and stuff. But all in all, the first half, it just looked like we were just in sort of in second gear and with a lot of potential gears to move through as well.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to describe it. I mean, they had a couple of little occasions where, they got in a couple of times, but we got people back behind the ball really quickly, which was good to see. Sprinting back. I think Tom once or twice got back in, if I remember rightly. But yeah, there was nothing untoward that made you think, oh fucking hell, we're in trouble here, kind of thing. So yeah, it was pretty, as has been said throughout so far, pretty controlled, if a little dull. But I mean, that's what we've been crying out for: a bit more efficiency, a bit more ruthlessness, and it was sort of, if it conserves energy over the course of a season, then yeah, that's going to be like the route we go down, isn't it? So, but overall, it's like first half as it went, it was sort of, yeah, not a lot happened really, did it? It was sort of like a couple of bookings, couple of challenges. I can't really remember a lot happening, to be honest with you, in the first half. I mean, there was
we had
a couple
of really nice moves which didn't quite end with the finish, but the football like that led to it was usually down the right hand side.
Through the first half and the right hand side, yeah. And they left like 3 against 3 a few times, which I thought, that's brave of them, isn't it? But
they left none against 1 at one point, and Dom didn't find the pass. Diaz was like about 20 yards behind all of their players. And Dom just tried to play a little lofted chip pass instead of just drilling it over the top. I couldn't believe that. There was nobody anywhere near Diaz. He would have been clean through.
He had the freedom of the Anfield Road end of the ground, didn't he, to run into, But, yeah, it was pretty comfortable. It didn't feel like we were in any major danger. I think I only remember one save from Alisson. The lads had a shot and Alisson got down and smothered it well there. But, yeah, it was pretty comfortable.
And what did you make of Jota's performance in general today, Dave? Obviously, he set up the first goal and was quite active, but he didn't really have much of a sniff of goal himself, like playing as the number 9 through the middle. Like, do you think it's going to be a case of just him holding onto that shirt for now, or do you think, are you looking for Darwin to come in at Old Trafford maybe?
No, not yet. You can't. Jota's done enough. I'm a big believer in, if you're in the team and you've got the shirt, you're playing well. There's no when the games start coming twice a week and you have to make changes, fair enough. But at the moment, no. Much as I obviously want to see Darwin in the team, not right now. No, he's got to play his way back in. Jota today, I thought he was fine. I thought he's done well with the goal. A couple of other moments in the second half where it looked like he was going to get through and get a shot in, and they've made good blocks and stopped him. But it was a
the overhead kick, wasn't it?
Yeah, and Robbo came at the back post. Robbo hit the post there, didn't he? He had to miss the post. Yeah, I thought like it wasn't an easy game for Jota. It was one of those games where the chances are not going to fall for the centre forward; they're going to fall to other players. But I thought he was fine, and the shirt is at the moment, no question about that.
Yeah, I was looking at it today, John, a lot of the time, considering some of the really nice interplay we had in and around the box and the one-touch football. That how nice it would have been to have sort of like peak Bobby in that position today. Like, he would have been perfect for the type of football we were playing today. Alas, that's not the case, and we have a different profile of forward in that position now. One who's going to hit the net more often than not. So it carries its own benefits. But it's just interesting to look at some of the stuff we're doing now and think about how it would have suited somebody like Bobby.
Yeah, especially with the the bodies around him as well. You know, who he can play off and that. Absolutely, yeah. It's, you know, prime Bobby, and what it looks like we're going to be doing would have been like, you know, phenomenal sight, wouldn't it? Really, but you know, more than happy with what Jota's contributed so far. And I think next week after last season there, where, you know, we missed a sack full of chances, did Jota play in any of that? He was injured,
No.
wasn't he?
Yeah.
He
He didn't play in any of them.
No.
So, but I think next week, you know, if he gets like 1 or 2 chances, you'd think he'll gobble at least one of the chances he gets up. Whereas last season it was just a free-for-all with the amount of clear-cut chances we were missing. But another stat I seen today actually was the XG. Like, I don't know what your opinions are on XG and all that, but I think it was like 5, I think it was. Was it 5 point something? The XG, I think it was.
The one I saw was like 2.6 or something.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
All right, am I wrong? I might be wrong. I could have unless...
You might have seen the combined stat, John, because I saw that.
Like
they showed.
Right, okay, yeah. Because when I seen it,
two.
it's like, really, it didn't feel like that, you know, as well as we played. So maybe that's what it could have been then, Chris, sorry, yeah.
The keeper did make a phenomenal save, though.
When he
got
down. Yeah.
Was it Mo? I can't remember who shot
Diaz.
Diaz. Yeah, Diaz, yeah. That was really good, that save. But that was in that spell we had for like, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes when we were absolutely sensational. We were just all over them.
Yeah,
It's good though, isn't it? Sorry, John, go ahead.
I'm back to the XG. We had that game against Newcastle, didn't we? And was it New Year's Day last year? It was like 7 something, something mental like that, wasn't it? It was like 4-1 or 4-2, was it? But the XG was like 7.
I have no memory of that game.
No, you do when Eddie Howe was complaining about the penalty.
No.
The Jota dived for the penalty one.
Yeah.
Oh, right, yeah. The Jota,
just the absolute torrential rain for the whole game, yeah. But yeah, overall, yeah, you know, the second half, you know, we played some nice stuff, and it just felt like more, you know, urgency and tempo to a lot what we were doing, kind of thing, as well as, you know, maintaining the control that we had throughout. I mean, I think Brentford missed that chance off the set piece. I think that was their moment, wasn't it? You know, because not a lot was happening at that point. I think they probably were just having a bit more of the ball. And they had a little spell where, you know, they got that corner. Alisson made what looked like a good save and that. And after that, we got the second goal, and that was ultimately what won the game. And I thought we were like so relaxed throughout. After that, there was absolutely no danger of, you know, Brentford coming back into it.
Yeah, definitely. I thought, Dave, that Brentford looked a bit bereft at times today by their inability to get any sort of foothold in the game. There was a lot of players throwing themselves to the ground. Your boy Mbeumo, especially, and the lad on the other side. What's his name? Usher. Yeah. Like they were hitting the deck quite a lot, and there was a lot of like the goalkeeper just hitting it towards the touchline, and more often than not it going out of play. And I thought it was just a good sign of like they're a decent side, and they've caused us a lot of problems in the past, and we kind of brushed them aside really, and made them really uncomfortable, and didn't really give them any option to get a decent foothold in the game.
Yeah, I expect a bit more from them, but I also think them not having Ivan Toney was a bit weird. Like, he's still there. Yeah. I feel like they should be using him. I don't really see the point in them just letting him completely sit out, like not picking him. You know, if he's fit, they should be playing him until whatever happens or doesn't happen with a transfer, because he makes such a difference to them. Like the partnership with Mbeumo and Tony's, like, you know, those two are like really good together. But you take Tony out of it, and I just feel like Mbeumo's like the only real player to worry about. Wissett, I don't even think he's that good, but like he just seems to score all the time. Like every week I watch Match of the Day and Wissett's scoring, and then the season finishes and he's got like 12 goals. Like, how's that happened? He scores every fucking week. But I think I'm still just traumatised by him, like, and his stupid little yoga celebration from when like he turned us over at their place, and I think he scored 2. And every time I see that, it's just like Nam style flashbacks. So like I don't like him, and it's totally unfair because it's not like he's ever done anything to me other than scored and done that celebration.
Don't be hating on yoga.
Yeah, he didn't do much today. Like none of them did, but I feel like a lot of that's just down to how well our defence played. Kanate, I thought he had a really strong game today. It was a good performance from him. Virgil didn't really have much to do. Do you know the thing I noticed a couple of times? And Buemo's like played through, and Virgil goes across, and he just wanted no part of it. He's like, I'm just going to hold this up and lay it off. And then the one time he went through and Kanate was there, he's like, okay, I'm gonna go at him. And as it was, Kanate just took it off him. But they don't even try to run at Virgil. It's like as soon as they see it's Virgil, it's like, yeah, I'll just hold it up and I'll just lay it off here because there's no way I'm going past them. And that's just that, the respect. It's like players just know they're not going to beat him, so they just don't even try it really. But you're not going to beat Kanate when he's on top form either. So, that's like, really, if he's back at his best level, like Kwanzaa was in the team on merit. Jarell Kwanzaa deserved to end last season in the team, and he deserved to start this season because of the way he'd finished last season and played in pre-season. So he deserved to play. But if everyone's on the best form, Kanate, for me, like I said it last season when he was in like a really good spell, Kanate's like, he's one of the best defenders in the world. He's fucking outstanding, but he just kind of lost his way a little bit last season. Picked up injuries at a bad time, and then his form suffered a little bit. But if he gets back like to his best level, like week in, week out, that's a formidable partnership we've got there.
You can subscribe to the Liverpool Way podcast on all the major platforms, whether it's Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon or Podbean. Just search for the Liverpool Way, leave us a review and hit subscribe to automatically receive all new episodes. You can also head to liverpoolway.co.uk and grab a TLW season ticket for just £3 a month. There's tons of exclusive content, including match reports from every Liverpool game, weekly Premier League roundups, the TLW diary and access to the members-only forum. Lastly, you can follow us on social media at The Liverpool Way on Twitter and at The Liverpool Way TLW on Instagram and Facebook. Definitely. And then we had, John, I suppose the one piece of drama of the day that we have to touch upon. We've had a lot of questions on Twitter about it as well. Trent is substituted with about 20 minutes to go. Connor Bradley comes on. And I didn't know this until I was almost home tonight on the coach, that there had been there'd been a bit of a set to, and Trent had a bit of a pout, like slumped down in his chair on the bench, and Slot had gone over to have a word with him. His reaction to that didn't look very constructive either, and then there was a bit of a sulk at full time as well. So what do you make of that? Is that just a storm in a teacup that we just need to not read too much into, or is that a concern for you that he's had that a little bit of a petulant moment there?
It's unnecessary, isn't it? I mean, if it would have been a storm in a teacup, it probably is, but the fact of the whole contract situation, like big rain clouds hanging over everything at the moment, I'm pretty confident that he'll sign, but while he hasn't, you've still got to look at that and think, he's not bigger than the club, acting a bit of a child. I mean, he's the vice captain as well. I mean, he's got some like young upstart, 18, 19-year-olds or whatever, who's just got in the team and, a bit of a flash Harry kind of thing. He's sort of, he got promoted to vice captain, part of the new leadership group last like 12 months ago and stuff. So it's counterproductive what he did, like for me today. It was a feel-good day. We've had a good win, solid win. Clean sheet, just don't do anything to rock the boat, just take it, get your head down and enjoy the win at the end of the game. It's just like, it's a bit of disrespect to Connor Bradley. I mean, Trent was in the Euro squad in the summer, so, Slot's like thinking of the bigger picture, isn't he, really? Trying to, even though Trent didn't play much, fucking Southgate and all that, but
He's still training every day, isn't he? And
he's still training. He's not on holiday like Mo's had, like quite a few weeks off and stuff. So yeah, just don't do anything. Just like no manager should have to justify the decision to a player, kind of thing. I mean, would he have done that under Klopp, for instance? I don't know. If Jurgen was still in the dugout today, what would he have done? Like if that was, I honestly don't know. But I'm sort of the opinion that he wouldn't have done. I might be wrong, I don't know, but I don't think he's a pulled that shit under Klopp. But it wasn't a good look, and it just creates unnecessary sort of headlines, if you like, that are not needed at this moment in time with everything going on. Slot's trying to come in and settle in, kind of thing, and he just doesn't need any adverse publicity going on regarding that.
Yeah, and Dave, as John Brennan pointed out in his question, Trent would know that this is going to cause a little bit of hassle, and it gives his manager a question to answer afterwards. He knows that the media are going to be bang on it. So, I don't know, as John says, it just feels like it's an unnecessary downer on an otherwise really upbeat day.
Yeah, I don't know where I am with it, to be honest, because there's quite a few things to consider. Firstly, and I'm not defending him here because I'm going to have a go at him in a minute, but just want to get this out the way. What he's done is not actually that big a deal. Like, if you compare it with, like, say, Mo last year on the touchline, like a proper, like, spat with the manager, this is not that. But I also think to myself, one, as John said, he's the vice captain. Two, this is a new manager. You should not be undermining a new manager who's taken over from, it's a hard enough job. You're taking over from Jurgen Klopp. This is not like last week when Kwanzaa got hooked for performance reasons, and it's a bit embarrassing for him. Like, Kwanzaa sat on the bench and didn't say a word. He didn't celebrate when we scored. And I'm okay with that. Kwanzaa probably felt like a bit humiliated at being subbed. He's probably a bit angry at his own performance, angry at being subbed, all of that stuff. He's a young lad, all that's going through his head. I'm totally okay with the way Jarell Kwanzaa acted on the bench last week after he was subbed. I'm not okay with Trent doing this because he was not subbed for performance reasons. He was subbed for his own fucking benefit. What's his problem? He wanted to stay on for 90 minutes. Well, tough shit. You got brought off early because we're 2-0 up. We've got a really good player that we can bring on in your place, so we're not weakening the team too much. And you're getting 20 minutes to put your feet up and ease yourself back into the season because he was one of the last ones to come back to report for training. So I genuinely just cannot get my head round why he would be like pissed off at being substituted. So unless there's something that's gone on that we're not aware of, then this is just him acting like a petulant brat to me. And also, the worst part of it is you're doing that to a new manager who's trying to prove himself and can really do without having to go into a press conference and answer questions like that. I actually think Slot answered it perfectly. He's played it down, didn't seem flustered by any of it, but he should not be having to deal with that situation. It's like, if Trent had have had a bad game and he'd have been brought off and he'd thrown his toys at the pram because he'd have been subbed, I wouldn't say that that's right, but I would completely understand it. He's competitive, players don't like being brought off. He would want to stay on and turn it round and do something for the team in personal pride and all that. So when players get brought off like that, sometimes you can understand why they react the way they do, but I don't understand how, let's not forget, he wasn't the only one brought off there. Jota and Diaz were both brought off at the same time, and Diaz was, for me, the best player on the pitch at that point, and he's getting brought off. Diaz will have been enjoying himself. He wouldn't have wanted to come off, but players understand that. You've got 5 subs now. You've got players who you need to give minutes to. You want to keep those players happy. Like at Ipswich, Slot made 4 substitutions. He still had another player who could have come on and didn't get on. So everyone on that bench who didn't get on the pitch will have been pissed off because they all want to get on the pitch. So what, Trent thinks he should be on the pitch for 90 minutes and Conor Bradley can just sit on his arse and not get any minutes.
Right.
When Trent was a kid on the bench, he'll have been desperate for 10 minutes at the end of a game or something like that. So he's got to understand that. And I don't know where his head's at, why he's reacting like that. Now, something else I would say is when he come off, initially it looked like he didn't know he was getting subbed. And I think he was just ignoring it. I think he knew and he was ignoring it. And then he starts taking his shin pads off. And I'm like, you can do that on the bench. Why are you taking your shin pads off on the pitch? What's the point in that? It was making a whole sort of drama of it, like, look at me, I'm taking my time. He did like shake hands with Conor Bradley. He didn't make a thing out of that. He shook hands with Slot, and I thought, oh, that's okay, that's fine, no problem. And I didn't know any of the other stuff that had gone on, because obviously that's being picked up on Sky and stuff. So I only knew about it like from what I'd read. I've seen a clip of him coming off the pitch, and he's looking up into the stands, and he kind of makes a gesture like putting his arms out as if to say, like, you know what. I didn't see that at the time, and I watched him coming off the pitch, and I didn't think anything was going on at all, because he seemed fine. He was walking around the pitch, he was clapping the fans, he was looking up into the stands, waving. Everything looked fine, and then I must have looked away, and that's the bit when that's happened. So I seen that, and I'm like, oh, okay, that doesn't look good. But again, we don't know the context of what that was, so I need to see everything that's gone down, because people are saying about Slot's actually had to have words with him on the bench and explain. He should not be having to explain shit to him while the game's on. You know, but
Slot went and sat by him, and Trent is like slumped in his chair with a big fucking titty lip on, like a naughty little child who's been scolded, like a little school kid who's been bollocked in front of the class. It's not a good look at all.
It's not a good look.
And then he kind of he pulls himself up a little bit, and he has like a little sort of glance at Slot, and I don't want to read too much into that, but it definitely wasn't a snarl, but it wasn't like a yes boss either. You know, it was there was definitely still some tension there. So it's just I don't want to be talking about it, to be honest, but we kind of have to.
You're not my dad. You can't tell me what to do. It's one of them, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And
I was going to wear my... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I fully expect that Slot is going to run into some issues like that. And I think he has done with some of the younger players, like Bajcetic, for example. The players who are not in his plans are gonna be resentful towards him because he's not Klopp. Whereas, you know, they were in Klopp's plans, so things were better for them then. So anyone whose situation has worsened since he's come in is going to look at him and go, fucking don't like this new guy, I miss Klopp. But somebody who's like... So like Gravenberch, for example, is probably feeling a totally different way because his situation's better now than it was. But, you know, Trent's going to be in the team regardless of who the manager is. But he knows how difficult it is, someone coming in replacing Klopp. And if he's doing that, and he knows the cameras are going to be on him, that's the thing. Slot's sitting there talking to him. If you're pissed off, I don't care. You suck it up and you just go, yeah, no problem, boss. It's fine. You just get on with the game. Don't worry about me. Don't make it about you, and that is like seriously fucking, and the contract issue as well magnifies it, makes it 10 times worse because we're all wondering, what's going on here, and yeah, it's unsavoury, it's unnecessary, and he needs to just fucking grow the fuck up. But if you're hanging around with Jude Bellingham, you're going to start, it's going to rub off on you because Jude Bellingham's a fucking bellend.
Not bad. Yeah.
And there was reports over the summer, I think like The Athletic done some big deep dive into Bellingham and that, and it was saying like a lot of players in the squad don't really like him. He's a bit of a loner, and it's only Trent who hangs around him. And I'm reading that going, if this is true, what's this telling me about Trent? Everyone else thinks he's a knobhead, and Trent's like thick as thieves, and it doesn't reflect well on Trent's judgment. So... yeah, I don't want to be seeing him acting like this. It's not what I expect from him. Vice captain of the club. Yeah, you've got to be better. It's as simple as that. I didn't like what Mo did last year, and I don't like what Trent's doing now.
I mean, at least Mo had the excuse that, not an excuse as such, he was coming on, wasn't he? I mean, he
was pissed off that he'd been left out.
Yeah, so you're like, you know, how competitive Mo is, and you know, he wants to play every minute, every game and that. You know, and we were I think West Ham had just scored as well, hadn't they, at that point in that game?
Yeah, the season was coming down around us, wasn't it?
It was just like collapsing around us. West Ham had just scored, you know, there was obviously a tension. You know, that can do, it's an emotional sport, I get all that, but with Trent, you know, everything was serene, you know, there's no issues, just, you know, you played well, good 7, 8 out of 10 performance, get off, have your rest. Let Bradley have a run out, and you know, but yeah, it's just all so unnecessary and unsavoury. And as I say, you touched on Dave for Slot. It's like, you know, we should be having to deal with shit like that.
I think that's my problem with it the most, John, is that you're doing this in the manager's first home game. It's not. No, I can't get on board with that at all. It's not acceptable. But what I will say is, like, these kind of things happen all the time at every club in every era. There's countless examples of stuff like this, and usually it blows over and it's no big deal. But as fans, we often see it as like much bigger than it actually is. I mean, don't forget, like, the last game of last season. Remember the uproar because, like, Darwin wasn't clapping Klopp when he came out, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, look at that!" And then the video comes out that night. He's fucking pushing him onto the dance floor and he's dancing with him and that. I'm like, yeah, you can't always read into stuff like that because it's not always what you think it is. But it's not a good look. And when you've got to be aware that everyone's looking at you. The cameras are going to be on that, and there's certain ways of acting. Even if you're not happy, you put on a brave face and you just don't let people see it because you don't want to cause a controversy. And he just is selfish because he didn't give a fuck. He made it about him, didn't he?
Players don't getting brought off. I understand all that. I think Michael Owen was one, like, he was a bit of a tit when he gets up back in the day, but it's just who he was. He was so driven, wasn't he? Yeah,
it's like a squad game now, John.
Squad game, yeah. It's like, it's 18, 19, 20-man squad kind of thing. And, Michael Owen had hamstrings, like cheese strings kind of thing. So, but as I say, it's just like put a slight little damper on, what it was a ultimately positive day kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in, like, energy and how one person's energy can raise a room or it can drop a room like a stone if that person decides that, if they're a big personality and they have the ability to do that. Like, I just don't like how it feels from an energetic standpoint. And the Highwayman on Twitter says, does Trent need an attitude adjustment by Paul putting him on detention? I think definitely.
Paul would probably be defending him if he was on here.
Yeah, Paul would be sending him for his lunch early. Here's an extra 50p, get yourself a can of Coke, Trent. Yeah.
No,
I'm just having a look through these questions.
We just didn't need that today. He's made it about him, and that's just totally unnecessary.
Yeah.
Mainly because I just don't see why he's even got a beef about it. It's like players get brought off with 20 minutes to go. It's like, that's football now.
Unless he's trying to make a point about something.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Loads of questions about that. Here's one that's a little bit more positive from Daniel J. I'll hand this one to you, John. He says, I know it's a really big if, Konate and Jota play 30-plus league games, could they be the difference in helping us sustain a title challenge? And do you think Luis Diaz will silence most of his critics this season?
Well, the answer, I hope so, to all of them, obviously. But yeah, Dave touched on Konate's strengths a bit earlier on. He's formidable when he's at the top of his game. Jota, it's $1 million question, isn't it, about his injuries. Hopefully, if Slot's methods are what they are, that'll be a thing of the past. Jota pulling up with injuries and stuff. I don't think he's had like a season here, has he, where he hasn't had like an interruption of some injury or other. I mean, I know that ironically he got injured against Brentford last season, didn't he? When he was flying. He was absolutely, he couldn't do nothing about that. But he was flying at the time, wasn't he? And that was when we were, in the groove, playing well, and Jota got injured. And it did catch up with us, that injury, I think, as the season went on, because everything, Mo's form went to shit. Darwin had his problems as the season went on. Diaz did as well. Diaz had that spell where late on the season he looked busy without doing a lot, if that makes sense.
He was playing well and just missing chances all the time.
Yeah, so Jota, in that Crystal Palace game, for instance, that we lost 1-0, and there's balls flashing across the box. There's just shots on goal in the 6-yard box. The keeper's making great saves. Jota could have been the difference, and those tight games that ultimately we came up short in when we were going for the league until April time or whatever. What was the last part of the thing? The question, sorry, Chris.
Whether Diaz can silence critics.
Well, again, yeah, I mean, I've just mentioned that unwittingly, about looking busy without doing a lot late last season. I mean, the one thing you can never criticise Diaz is his work ethic is incredible. He's so intense in everything he does. I love that side of him, that old South American, footballer, that mentality he's got, kind of thing. So yeah, again, if Diaz can stay fit and as our fella can stay out the equation, then fingers crossed. Yeah, that's like Diaz really.
Barcelona.
Yeah, Diaz should be a 15 to 20 goal a season. Forwards really, shouldn't he? I don't think he's quite got them numbers for us. Like Sadio. I mean, going back to Sadio, how good he was. I mean, you're going from Sadio to Diaz. They're different players, but ultimately, they were brought in. He was brought in to do the same thing as Sadio. It's not quite happened to that level, but hopefully this could be his like breakout season. Hopefully he's got the confidence of Slot. It seems he has, and hopefully he'll stay fit. And he's, whether he gets that 15, I'm going to target him. He should be getting 15 goals this season. Diaz.
I'm going to say he does that comfortably.
Okay,
good. And I think that will silence his critics.
But yeah, I also think he gets a raw deal anyway because he's not Sadio. Because the thing is, if you compare Diaz with like left wingers at all the other clubs, rival clubs, all the top clubs, who's putting up like better numbers and better performances than Diaz? The only one you could maybe say, and he doesn't always play on the left, would be Son.
Anthony Gordon's sort of matching him, isn't he? I think last season.
Yeah, last season, but I mean, in general, if people are saying to win the league, you've got to upgrade on Diaz. Well, no, because Doku and Grealish, what are they doing? What are they doing like, more than Diaz? Mm-hmm. Now, it's different because they've got Haaland scoring like 40 goals a season, but it just in terms of what output that you're getting from players in Diaz's position, it's not easy to find someone who's going to be better than him. I just think he's really underrated. Like, I just think I'm not swapping him for most of the players in his position at other clubs.
Yeah.
But I do think he's got to sharpen up the finishing because he does miss too many chances.
But you look at Arsenal, if they're going to be going for the title, you've got Martinelli. And Martinelli's a good player.
He's not better than Diaz,
but he's not better than Diaz, I agree.
Neither is Trossard.
But Trossard's got that sort of clinical edge to him. Yeah, he's just clinical. He doesn't miss chances, does he? Which, you've seen that yesterday. It was a great finish for his goal. Saturday, against Villa. That's what Diaz should be doing. Knowing them tight games when you're going up against, like, a possible top 4 title rival, whatever it might be. That's what Diaz has got to bring to the table in those type of games to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. All right, good stuff. Answered that one well. We've kind of covered this. James Skelly asked, what are our early impressions of Gravenberch in his new role? I think we did that quite a lot. This is a good one. Terry asks, is this the worst kit we've ever had? It's not very nice. You do?
I think it's all right, yeah.
It's the collar. It's so
yeah,
bad.
It's the collar for me.
I don't know. I think the collar's not great, but the kit overall, I don't mind it.
It's like the 84, 83 to 85 design, isn't it? The pinstripes and that, but it is the collar for me as well, Chris. I totally agree with that, yeah. Like, I did like last season's kit, like when not only wear it for the last home game of the season, I think we wore it against Villa, and I thought, fucking hell, that kit looks amazing, proper, like, it sounds a bit weird, but the redness of it, if that makes sense. Yeah. But this one looked a bit diluted, maybe because of the pinstripes, I don't know, but I wonder what people thought of the pinstripe kit in like 83 to 85. It was like, and then you had the double kit in in 86, which was probably like the all-time classic Liverpool kit, wasn't it?
Definitely the away kit, the white away kit.
The white away kit, yeah. Yeah,
when
absolutely.
Did people start actually like buying the replica kits a lot? Because I think my first kit I had was it that one?
I had that the day it came out, the 85, 86 one.
What, the white one, Dave? Or
I got the red one, the full kit the day it came out.
Yeah, I'm not overly a fan, but as long as the players are producing, and I couldn't really care that much, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting Adidas back. I think it'll open us up to some of those classic kits. I think Nike just over-egged the pudding as well a bit. It's all right sometimes if you see it from a distance, but if you see someone wearing it up close, it's got all these little funky, shitty design elements to it that are just unnecessary. Like, it's so fucking easy to design a football kit. Like, for Liverpool fans, all we want is like a red kit with a liver bird on it and a slight yellow or white accent, and then we're done, right?
Yeah.
Just a wearable shirt.
Less
like
is
make the
more.
collar nice. Less is more, definitely. But then again, we're all men in our 40s and
Yeah.
50s, and they're not being designed for
Kits
us
are not
anymore.
aimed at
So
us. Yeah.
I can't remember the last kit I had. I think it might have been like the Istanbul was the last home shirt I had. And I'm too old, obviously, to get numbers on my shirt, but the last number I had on my shirt was the Netto bag kit where I had 12 John Scales on the back. I like being different to everyone. Everyone would have like
I was the
Fowler
same. I had Harkness on one of mine.
was
Everyone would have
12
like
as well,
Fowler, McManaman, 11 Redknapp or whatever, and I'm like,
Yeah.
John Scales is where it's at, the smooth bastard.
And I was the first person to get Owen on the shirt as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had
They told me
6
that
foot.
in the club shop when I got it done. They were like, oh, this is the
Really?
first one of these we've done. It was the day he got given a squad number. I got the Ecru kit and I got his name and number on the back, 18, Owen.
That was just after we won the Youth Cup, was it? Then would have been around that time, yeah.
Yeah, around
Yeah,
that
I
time.
had 6 Hutchison on the 93-94 away kit, you know, the green sleeves and the like the black stripes, like the Adidas stripes going upwards.
yeah.
I had 6 Hutchison on that one. Again, slight to be different.
Nice. I think my try to be different effort was Beyond a Bee.
Stig.
20. Yeah, the Stig Beyond a Bee shirt. It was that like luminous yellow one. I think of that as a sort of Michael Owen kit as well. I think he scored a volley away at Southampton or something on the opening day in it. And Karl-Heinz Riedler, I think, of wearing that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was my attempt to be different. And then after that I didn't get shirts with names and numbers for ages, and then I started getting all my kits with Hendo on, and now I don't want to wear them anymore.
It's funny how kits remind you of players, though, isn't it? Like over the years, like like that green one we had. That's like the TT Kamara kit to me.
The away goal at Highbury.
Yeah, that just reminds me of TT Kamara.
They should have given Endo the number 14 shirt, and you could have just picked off some of the letters then. It would have been a little bit spaced out between the D and the O, but at least you would have been able to salvage your shirts. But no,
I know, but then it would have looked a bit weird, me wearing the Madrid European Cup final shirt with Endo on the back and the 1920 title winning shirt with Endo on the back. But yeah, it definitely would have been less embarrassing than walking down this. What's he doing now, by the way? Is he got a club at the
Ajax,
moment?
is he? Still at Ajax?
He's still at Ajax.
I think so.
No idea.
I know they're not
Must
pulling
be.
up any threes, like. As far as I
Did
know.
they loan him or did they buy him?
They
I think they
loaned him, I
bought
think.
him, yeah.
They probably sent him
really?
back if they loaned him.
Okay. Jordan Henderson handed fresh blow following ex-Liverpool captain Saudi Pro League nightmare. Could be sold by Ajax this summer, so they do own him. The former Liverpool captain terminated his contract with the Saudi Arabian side El Ettifaq in January. Blah, blah, blah. His new club Ajax have endured their worst season in years and found themselves twice inside the relegation zone. Hold on, when's this from?
That's got to be
That's from the
last
10th of
season.
May last year.
Yeah. But it does say that they'd bought him, so...
Okay, fair enough. So he's still there. All right, cool. So were there any other questions that stood out to you, Dave? The other ones that you wanted to address?
Mostly about Trent, weren't they?
Yeah, and there was Darren Hughes asked about the left-sided centre-back defender Robbo conundrum. We've addressed that.
Yeah.
Loads of the other ones are about Trent. Glenn Patrick Euler, he asked whether Szoboszlai is back to form. 2 matches, but looked very good. I think I thought he had a much better game today, and I think you two did. I thought he was excellent, probably in our top 3 players. But I think that's sort of more about the level of improvement that we saw from him compared to what we were seeing towards the back end of last season as well. Like I think he's definitely back on the right track, and I like him in this role he's in now.
It feels like he's got license to just run about now.
Yeah.
He's doing lots of sprinting, forward and back. Like he's maybe not as restricted tactically where he's got to perform a specific role. It's like, yeah, you're the furthest midfielder forwards, just go and cause havoc. He seems to be just doing a lot of sprinting.
Because like I'd never seen him, but the first game last season, I think we played Chelsea away, and again, not watched any of pre-season. The first thing I noticed about him, if I'm never watched a minute of him in my life, first thing I noticed about him, how powerful a runner he is. And then, but as the season went on, I just thought he got bogged down a bit, didn't he? Lost of confidence. He's obviously a really good player. And hopefully, as I say, with that licence, as you've just mentioned, Dave, he can, that'll suit his strengths more as the season goes on.
Yeah.
Because then again, he's another one, should be getting 10 goals this season.
Yeah, in that advanced position.
Yeah,
he
easy.
should be.
Yeah.
Because I would back Harvey to score 10 goals in that position if he was playing every game.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Nice to see him getting on today as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd have been gutted if he didn't come on. He made himself useful, and hopefully he'll get plenty of opportunities, I think, Wayne, throughout the season.
Yeah. There was another question from Glenn as well about Slot. He said, no idea if Slot was a huggy guy at Feyenoord, but you think he's toning it down on the sidelines so as not to be seen to be Jurgen-like. I don't think it's about not being seen like Jurgen. I think he doesn't know these players that well at the moment.
Yeah.
And it's difficult. It's like it's the stepdad thing again, isn't it? It's like you don't want to overstep the mark. So when players are coming off, you see he's like shakes hands and sort of a little arm around the shoulder and that's that. But it would be weird if he was just hugging them. I feel like he probably... I don't know what he was like at Feyenoord, but I just think like, maybe don't force it. You're the stepdad, so just let it just play out naturally.
One thing I do like about him, like early on, he just seems so authentic and genuine now. I mean, when Rodgers came here, Rodgers was just like I don't know, it's just he's obviously a good coach, but he was a bit of a bluffer, wasn't he? Let's face it. But
snake oil salesman.
Yeah. But I just like how he comes across. For Dutch, not offending anyone here, but that can seen as some of them quite arrogant in a good way, you'd say, in some cases. You look at some of the Dutch coaches in the past and that, but
Van Gaal,
God bless him, yeah, what a guy, what a fucking guy. Fucking lovely, Louis Van Gaal. But yeah, he just seems quite humble and respectful. I say he still finds on his feet and that, and winning games. Then if he keeps winning games, then he'll. But I just don't think he doesn't come across the type who's gonna sort of become like that, like arrogant as time goes on just by winning games. He just looks like quite grounded and level-headed
and self-assured, I think.
Self-assured. That's right. Yeah.
There's an assuredness about him that gives me confidence.
Yeah,
I feel like with Brendan, you did think it was bluffing a lot of the time with some of the stuff that he came out with. But I listened to Arne Slot talk, and I think, well, he actually knows what he's talking about, and I have faith that he feels in control of this situation. Again, small sample size, but good indications on that so far.
Did you see the interview with Gallagher?
Yeah.
See, I watched that tonight, and the thing that struck me there was how little we actually know about what's going on. When on the field, like the chess match that's going on. Mm-hmm. When he was saying about the way Ipswich were pressing, and it was like the left-sided central midfielder, Luongo, I think his name was. He was just closing Trent down all the time. So in the second half, they said to Trent, go 10 yards wider because he's playing central midfield. He's not going to follow you out there, or if he does, you're going to have time. And then all of a sudden, Trent starts bossing the game because he's getting time on the ball. And so, there's all stuff like that going on that, the majority of us just wouldn't have a clue about changes like that, how Trent was freed up. Now, to be fair, I did see a video, I think it was the one I was talking about before, the tactics video, and they spoke about that and referenced that exact point about how that Luongo was following Trent around, and then we freed him up. But Slot explained all that, and I'm like, yeah, we're sat there in the match and we've got no idea what's going on in terms of stuff like that. Even a lot of the analysts, it's in real time, they're probably not picking up on that. It's like, I'm talking about the YouTubers, like they'll watch the video, they'll break it down afterwards. But in real time, are they getting onto things as quickly as that? It just shows how, like, the game's changed so much now. And this is why I keep saying about how important coaching is now in comparison to how it was before. I mean, you hear stories in the 80s about, like, players sign, like Souness said, like, about he signed for Liverpool, and he's like, what do you want me to do? And they're like, well, if you don't know what to do, why have we bought you? Just go out there and figure it out. And they're not given any sort of tactical instructions like that. And then you look at how it is now, and everything's like so in depth, and it's such a different game to how it used to be. And if you haven't got like a coach who's tactically like spot on, you've got no chance now.
But like Hart or Shankly said, football's a simple game complicated by idiots.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of bluffers out there, kind of.
Back then it was, but now it's not a simple game anymore.
Yeah, well, this is it. Times have changed, as you've just said. But there are a lot of spoofers out there who do complicate it to make themselves look better than they are.
Speaking of spoofers who complicate it to make them look better than they are, we play against Erik ten Hag's Manchester United next Sunday. Always a lot of trepidation going into that fixture, Dave. Certainly for me, you're always like super confident that we're going to go and blam them everywhere. How are you feeling going into this one?
I don't know, because we are in like unknown territory. You know, I think the confidence that I had about those games, it was kind of justified in how the games went, but we just didn't finish it off. The game went exactly how I was expecting it to go. Like, yeah, these are shit, we'll batter them. And we did, but we just didn't put the chances away. In terms of next week, I don't know, because we don't know how Slot's going to approach that game. As I was saying to John afterwards, Klopp's record at Old Trafford wasn't great, even considering we had like a much better team than them for most of the time. His record there wasn't great. But is that just one of those things where sometimes like you have a bogey ground and it could just be Klopp's bogey ground, and that might change next week? Slot might just go there and go, yeah, well, my team's well better than your team, we're just going to go and win this game, and we go there and win comfortably because we've got a different manager now who's not carrying that Old Trafford jinx around with him. So we just don't know. I don't know. I'd like to think we'll go there and win because we are clearly a much better team than them. I think Slot's already shown to me that he's a much better coach than Ten Hag. My dad was talking about United yesterday, and he kept calling the manager. He kept calling him Hag, and I was like, that's not a surname. He was like, what do you mean? His first name's not 10, He was like, who's Hag? He thought like his name was Ten Hag. I was like, no, his first name's Eric. But yeah, so that just made me laugh. But yeah, so clearly I think we've got a better coach, we've got better players, we're much better organised. We need to talk about Gary Neville's predictions on this note while we're on this subject. Gary Neville last week had an absolute fucking nightmare with his predictions. He tied himself in knots just to make sure that he had United finishing above Liverpool, and he had nothing to back it up with. And like that, Dave Jones said to him, what areas do you think Manchester United is stronger than Liverpool in then, Gary? And he just kind of was like, and I'm like, well, none. So how are you going to say that they're going to finish above us when there's like not one area where they're better? So then he tried to revisit his awful take from last summer about United's got a better midfield and Klopp would swap his midfield for United's. He tried to like justify that by saying, yeah, well, I think United are stronger in midfield, and he said Klopp performed miracles to get what he did out of McAllister, Endo and Szoboszlai. I'm like, perform miracles? Fucking McAllister's like one of the best midfield players in the world. What are you talking about? But he just wanted to have United above Liverpool, but he had absolutely nothing that he could say as to why that would be the case.
He probably didn't expect to be called upon it.
Yeah, but when he said, what areas are they strong at, I was like, he's got you now. And he did. He floundered. He just didn't know what to say. So he just tried to justify his terrible take from last year. But, I mean, United's midfield, it's like, well, Mainoo's the only one you'd look at and go, yeah, I wouldn't mind having him in the squad. But the rest of them, like, no, they've sold McTominay now as well, haven't they? He's just gone to Napoli. Yeah, he's gone to Napoli, or he's about to go to Napoli.
That's a bad move.
The only reason Gary Neville could justify United finishing above Liverpool is because, despite how much better we've been than them in recent years, they have finished above us 2 out of the last 4 seasons. So that's if you're thinking of from that angle, that's the only reason that you could think of. Like United have. For 2 of the last 4 seasons, they have finished above us. But when we have finished above them, we've been miles ahead of them. Like when they finished above us, it's been a few points here and there or whatever. But that's the only reason that you could possibly justify. I mean, one of them seasons was the year Virgil and all the centre backs got injured and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I'm sort of with you, David. I don't know what to expect next week. It's like, Steve Kelly once famously said that it's them and it's there, and that always resonates with me. I always expect the worst. So, it's just, I hope we win, but I just think some skullduggery could happen and we might not do. Who knows? It's the unknown, isn't it? As I say, it's Slot's first big test, if you like, how he's going to approach it. And if, I'm curious to see how we perform when we go 1-0 down in a game. I know, we've got the history of coming back. Last season proved that, was it 20 times or whatever, we went 1-0 down. But 1-0 down under Slot's not happened yet. It's going to happen at some point. I don't know if it's going to happen again. So I just want to see how we approach that.
Hopefully not next week.
Yeah, well, that's it. But whenever it does happen, it'll be interesting what kinds of approach we take to it and what Slot does to try and change things around if that happens.
But Slot hasn't got the Old Trafford baggage, but the players have.
Yeah, but are you going on about...
got that in mind, what happened to them last season?
But even at Goodison, as bad as Everton have been, Klopp's record wasn't that good at Goodison either, was it?
It was usually 0-0, wasn't it?
0-0, or it was like a few 0-0s. I think we won 4-1 one year, and he beat us last season as well, didn't he? So... I think most of them were draws, and as you say, for all the where Everton have been over recent years and how superb we were for a number of years, it's the record at Goodison wasn't great either.
Yeah, I like the idea that we'll be able to have a reset going into next week, with the idea that Slot isn't carrying any of that baggage, and he'll be able to just instill that in the players and give them clear and concise instructions to go out and follow. It seems that he is very good at breaking down the minutiae and conveying it, from what we've seen so far and on today's evidence certainly, and the rapid manner in which they've picked things up from him. It seems that he's quite a good conveyor of information, so hopefully he can just lay it out in a kind of cold-blooded fashion and just say what they need to do to go out and beat those jabrones, and we can just go and do it in an emotionless fashion.
Yeah. I think a lot of the good things that we've seen today, we need to take into next week. So, if you look at today, we were excellent in transition. Ryan's had a really good game in the pivot. The trequartista role, McAllister was outstanding.
You had me for a minute there, Dave. I was just about to quit the podcast then.
Yeah, so more of the same next week.
And we'll probably look to keep the same team, right? We haven't got a game in midweek. If everybody's available, that's the starting 11 at the moment.
No reason to change it, is there?
Yeah, good stuff. And I mean, unless, not that they'd probably come in anyway, do you think we'll be back in midweek with some news, or unlikely?
I still think we will sign someone, just because I can't process the idea that they would go into a season having not bought anybody for a new manager who's come in, head coach. So it's hard enough coming in and trying to replace Jurgen Klopp. It's like, even though we've left a really good squad, we know that, it's a stable setup, it's a good place to come into. But still, you're replacing Jurgen Klopp. You want every little edge that you can get, and to not give a manager like a single new signing, I find that, especially when you've been like getting rid of players, not key players, admittedly, it's young players, and then we've lost Thiago, Matip, players like that from the squad. So the squad is like smaller than it was last year. So you're giving them a squad that is technically it's weaker than Klopp had at the end of last season. How are you not doing something? So I can't see any way that they don't do anything. Surely they've got to get some sort of a deal over the line.
See what I'm
maybe. Sorry, John, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Chris. What did you say then, mate?
No, go on. Stick with the transfers, man.
Oh yeah. What is a bit weird is that we're coming to the end of the window, and apart from Zubimendi, which all the links are out there from the the transfer people who like Hornstein or Romano or whoever they are. It's just weird the way we're not being strongly linked with anyone, because at this stage of the window, the players who are going to sign for clubs, they're being linked strongly to them. So, we're either keeping something like really under wraps, which, if we just went out and signed someone without anyone getting a word of it, then, fair play. But, that's what's made me think we might not sign anyone, just for the fact that we're not, you always read the transfer talk, don't you? You see the BBC website or whatever it is, wherever you look at that type of stuff. But there's been no major strong links for anyone since Zubimendi thing fell through and stuff.
And before that, Anthony Gordon,
which I mean, you're looking at, I don't know, say Chelsea have been linked to every Tom, Dick and Harry as you'd expect. United are being linked to that Ugarte, which will probably happen now. That'll have a knock-on effect because McTominay's leaving and stuff, and all of the bigger clubs in the league, you kind of know who they're going to sign, with one or two players they're going to sign. But with us, it just feels like there's nothing concrete from anyone in terms of interest, even speculation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And do you think they might do that thing, Dave, where they unveil a couple of contract extensions in lieu of actually signing players to placate us a little bit?
Do you remember the year when they announced on deadline day a new contract for Nat Phillips? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, you're trolling us now. You're absolutely trolling us. I mean, I'd be happy enough if they do that, because that was my priority, is get those deals done.
Sure.
If they were to announce on deadline day those 3 new contracts that were all done, I'd be delighted. I'd be fine with that, even though not signing anyone is not a good thing. If they did those contract extensions, I wouldn't be kicking off about no signings. But if you're not doing those contract extensions and you're not signing players, but you've let players go during the window, and if Joe Gomez goes, which he was on the bench today, so maybe there's nothing going on there, who knows. But if they sell Gomez and Tyler Morton, that's another 60 million or so on top of what they've already brought in. And nobody talks about the wage bill. They must be saving at least 3 million a month on the wage bill now, if you think who's gone. So not just players who've gone, but also Klopp and his staff were on a lot more money than Slot and his staff. So there's a saving there. There's Thiago's wages, there's Matip's wages, Adrian's wages, Carvalho's wages, Vandenberg, all these players. If Joe Gomez goes, all of them, you're looking at a massive amount of money that they've taken off the wage bill. So if you do that and you don't bring somebody in, I mean, the optics for that are fucking awful, and they'll deserve whatever shit they get, whatever complaints you're getting from fans and all that. And I think a lot of the stuff from fans in transfer windows is just totally overboard. But in this case, I totally get why people will be pissed off, and it's justified. But get the contract extensions done at a bare minimum.
All right. I hope that's the case. All right, we said we were going to keep it shortish tonight, so we could get this up for everybody to listen to in the morning. Is there anything else that either of you guys want to touch on before we wrap it up for the evening?
Nothing springs to mind, no.
Yeah, happy with everything that we've gone over, Chris, yeah.
Good stuff. Well, lads, delighted to see you both today in the flesh rather than just talking to you on the podcast. It's great to be back at Anfield. And a good start to the season. 2 wins from 2, about all we could ask for, really. Some improving performances, both from individuals and from the team. They look like they have the ability to really start kicking on a little bit now. So far, so good. If there is any activity in the week when it comes to contracts or new signing, you can rest assured we'll be back. Otherwise, Dave and the boys will be back after the game at Old Trafford next Sunday, I think it is. Hopefully with 3 wins from 3 to celebrate. So, yep, thanks for joining us. We appreciate your support as always. And until next time, we'll catch you soon.